I have a confession to make. I don't really like prequels. I almost never pick up novels that are prequels, since I already know what happened in the future. It just seems like a waste of time. So I wasn't terribly excited about the House of the Dragon, the Game of Thrones prequel, nor the Rings of Power, the Lord of the Rings prequel, but I'm a huge fantasy nerd, so of course I watched both. That said, I did not have huge expectations. I know a lot of people have been talking about these shows coming up to their release date, especially the Rings of Power, but I was sort of meh. So now that I've watched the first 2 episodes of both these series, guess what? I found myself enjoying both prequels. Who am I? I am the booktube goddess, the #1 drag queen booktuber on YouTube. So which was better, HBO's House of the Dragon or Amazon's The Rings of Power? Let's start with Amazon's The Rings of Power, which is supposed to document the making of the rings. I really wasn't looking forward to this because I knew it was not based on the actual story written by J.R. Tolkien, but rather extrapolated from events in the appendices of Lord of the Rings because they weren't able to get the rights to the Silmarillion. Not only that, the writers had to take huge liberties to make up a story pretty much out of whole cloth. What I did not really like were the characters of Galadriel and Elrond. As you may know, Lord of the Rings may be one of my favorite books of all time. So I have some definite opinions and expectations about those characters, especially with Galadriel. I had a hard time getting used to her as some sort of woman warrior as opposed to the Lady of Lothlorien, and I had similar issues with Elrond. I just didn't imagine him as a politician and apprentice metalworker. Frankly, I wish they would have just made up whole new characters or pulled some really obscure characters from the lore. Anyway, my least favorite part of the Rings of Power was the elves. They just didn't have that magical, wise, ethereal component that I associate with Tolkien's elves. They were just too human. But what I did like was the hobbits, the dwarves, and even the humans. Once they came on the screen, I was very happy. I'm not going to try to justify why hobbits are involved in any of this. I don't care. I just love them. They're kind of precursors to the hobbits in the Shire. These little guys are kind of proto-hobbits, and we focus on one little hobbit woman named Nori who finds a mysterious stranger. Is it Gandalf? Could it be Gandalf? I don't know, but if it was, I wish we saw 5 meteors in the sky to represent the 5 Istari. And you'll know what I mean if you've seen the episodes. The dwarves are everything you'd think of when you think of dwarves, only seeing their kingdom in all its glory, rather than the ruins we usually see in the Lonely Mountains or the Mines of Moria, all that Khazad-dûm stuff. I loved all the actors who played dwarves. I loved their portrayals, and we did get a flash of some mystery. Arkenstone, maybe? The humans were humans, living in the shadow of the elves. I thought we'd get to see like a great human civilization like Numenor, but we focus on a little farming village, which I'm fine with. We get a good look at the village healer, Bronwyn, and her son, who somehow has some sort of artifact. I was shocked that I really enjoyed watching this series, even though I would have preferred it if Amazon would have just created their own fantasy story and not coupled it with The Lord of the Rings. But I get it, it's a huge franchise, and why wouldn't they want to draw in the viewership? But I had really low expectations going in, and those expectations were exceeded. So I think I liked it better than House of the Dragon. Wait a minute. Wait a bloody minute. We haven't even talked about House of the Dragon. This prequel focuses on the Targaryens when they ruled Westeros. I also didn't have huge expectations for this, not like some people. Now, unlike The Rings of Power, House of the Dragon was based on the story written by George R.R. Martin called Fire and Blood. Full disclosure, I have not read Fire and Blood because I don't like prequels. But I do trust Martin. I trust him to spin a great story and plot, and that gives me some confidence in the strength of the story in this HBO series. And I was not disappointed. We follow House Targaryen during the reign of King Viserys. He wants a son to succeed him, but at least when the story opens, he only has a daughter, Princess Rhaenys. He does have a brother named Daemon, portrayed by Doctor Who's Matt Smith. What I loved about this series is showcasing how utterly terrible a monarchy is as a system of government. Viserys doesn't seem like such a great king, but his brother would inarguably be worse, much worse. The compulsive or obsessive need to have a male heir felt really real in a patriarchal society. So too was the need of using marriage as political alliances. The scene where Viserys is considering marrying a girl he thinks is maybe a little too young. I fell on the floor laughing when we actually saw how young this person was. Like we got in the original Game of Thrones, this is dark, really dark. Bloody tourneys, bloody childbirth, super graphic violence, and graphic sex. And who knew I could have been so grossed out by crabs? It was all dialed up to 11. And we do get what the title promised. Dragons. Huge, enormous, beautiful, terrible, fire-breathing dragons. I found myself enjoying this story in all its gruesome glory, so I think I liked House of the Dragon more than The Rings of Power. But The Rings of Power was more humorous. It was funny, and it had more heart. Not to mention, family-friendly. Ha! House of the Dragon was raw and visceral and real. But hobbits, well, dragons. Okay, I don't know which series I liked better. If you want me to do a recap after they've both aired, let me know down in the comments. And while you're there, go ahead and like this video and subscribe to my channel. Well, that goes without saying. Until we meet again, may all the books you read and their adaptations be blessed.